Today I am at Pure Triumph, where I bought my Explorer. I do like the look of the Thruxton. And I am test riding firstly this one, which is the little Triumph Scrambler, which is based roughly on the Bonneville. And the idea is to hit the slow me down option. And maybe go off the road. It's a modern take on the old traditional Bonneville type bike. Twin cylinder. Fuel injected now, although it has got a fake choke, more of a fast idle to keep it looking fairly traditional. There's loads of different things you can do to it. I mean, it sounds a bit quiet at the moment on the old with the stock exhaust, but you can get an Arrows exhaust which turns it from a double exhaust into just one, still up the side. I'll take some photos later and I might walk around it with the old video camera working. But yeah, the idea is just to have a play. It's relatively cheap, 7 grand, something like that. Add the exhaust, you're up to about 8. There's other things you can do, screens, and CNC fabricated parts. Yeah, the idea is a bike that I can use for a bit more cruisy style riding. One that I can still use every day, and then keep my sports bike for having a laugh when I need to get some adrenaline flowing. I have seen videos on YouTube of people taking these off-road. And it's really light. Well, it's got some poke, so immediately able to overtake a van. Of course, I don't know what gear I'm in. It doesn't have a gear indicator. I think it's got 5 gears in total. So if that was the case, I'm now in 5th, and I can quite happily roll past this truck in 5th from low revs. The old suspension seems quite hard. No idea if it's adjustable. I could have chosen a better day. It's a bit cold. I'm going to miss my heated grips. I've got an hour to play on it if I want, and then after that I'm hoping to go on a street triple RX. I know that doesn't hit the cruise option, but it will certainly hit the laugh option, and it's a 675, so it is going to be a lot slower than my 1000. I don't know what this does. Maybe it resets. No, it cycles through, so you've got trip, clock and odometer. That's it. That's all you've got. It has got a rev counter, where the equivalent that this one's based on, or the Street Twin, that doesn't come with a rev counter as standard, although you can add it. The Street Twin, I think, is less torquey, but maybe has a bit more bhp. It seems smooth enough. Single disc at the front. Quite nice in the shiny black. There's a dark blue one which is quite nice, but in the Street Twin you can get a matte black, which I think looks really nice. The twin pipe looks alright. My leg's resting against the heat shield. But I just think the single pipe out the side looks a lot better, and listening to YouTube the sound difference is amazing, and it adds about 5% or 5 bhp, and they do actually have to configure the electronics if you swap the exhaust. So it's one of those type of things that you could fit it yourself, but then you've got to get the ECU flashed. So it might be worth, if I was to do that, to actually get one fitted at the same time as buying it. The only concern about that one is the one they've got in the showroom with it on, it's taken off the rear pillion seats, which would be a bit rubbish, because I like taking my lad out now, and this would be far more suitable, not than the Explorer, because I've got a back box on that, and that he acts as a seat back rest, so he can't fall off the back, but certainly miles better than my GSX-R. I wouldn't really want to take him on the back on that. Right, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Yeah, so it's got 5 gears. Can't say what speed I'm doing, but it's not excessive. Actually, I'm doing around 75, 80, and yeah, it's alright, it's not too drafty. There's a bit of pressure on my chest, nowhere near as much as I found on the old Harley 883 iron. Seems half okay to me. No real complaints, it's what it is. It's a retro style bike that you can configure to how you want it, make it look your own. Triumph do, I think they do about 150 different parts, so you can personalise it, but there is clearly a massive aftermarket as well for parts. For example, there's one company called Tech Bike, and they do an exhaust that is more traditional, low slung, not going up the side of the bike, But instead of being the £1,000 that Triumph and Arrow want, it's 150 quid. You've got to do some slight modification. You've got to dent it in one location to avoid it touching the rear brake master cylinder. But I watched a video of it on YouTube, and my god, when the guy started it up, was it loud. Sounded proper. And it actually looked as good a quality as the Arrow. But without the Arrow name. But again, the problem with that is, well, if I did do that, then you have to, even with that one, you still have to flash the ECU. But you could download the Arrow ECU file from the Triumph website and use that, because it's as free-flowing as the Arrow. So that is a known thing that you can do. So this is the Scrambler. Quite a pretty little bike, really. The back end's a bit minging, yeah, but you can change that. Again, there's the twin pipes. They look alright. I don't like, some of this is all a bit fancy. It'd be quite good fun, I reckon, to get some of that exhaust wrap and put round it. So yeah, that's the Triumph Scrambler. Quite like it. Quite like it. I've noticed the seat is a little bit hard. Here's the fast idle. That's kind of the fake clutch, just to make it a bit more traditional. It's now water cooled instead of air cooled, but they've cleverly hidden the little radiator to make it carry on still looking like a air cooled, did I say air cooled bike instead of water cooled. Yeah. Right, have a 10 more minutes ride and then head back. The exhaust I was talking about, instead of coming along there, the Arrow is a single version of that, a 2-into-1, and it does look a lot nicer. There's just too much chrome there. But the other one I was talking about, the Aftermarket one, comes down underneath like that and ends up sort of here. So it's far more traditional. You have to put a dent in it about 5 mil deep, so tiny, so that it doesn't touch the reservoir. And you can do that neatly with a hammer and a rubber screwdriver, the handle. And you have to change a bolt under there. You'd nick it from a Bonneville or buy it as if it was going on a Bonnie. And you have to change the foot peg as well to smaller items. But it did look alright. It's weird how it even though I've only stopped for 5 minutes or so, I think it could have quite happily accepted having some fast idle there on the old fake choke. I don't know what standing up's like. Oh no, that's not nice. Looks like quite a nice country park here. Now, from my recollection, there is a little bit of a twisty road up this way. When I test rode the Explorer, when I bought that one, I went up the dual carriageway and came back this way. Yeah, the old knees can lock in quite nicely. I'm relatively warm enough in my textiles. I think a screen would help a little bit. Nothing massive, just a little fly screen, summer screen, something like that. I think just to blow some air up over the top. And it might look tasteful. But yeah, what am I doing now? 45. I could overtake if I needed to, but equally I can quite happily cruise around, and that's part of the aim, part of the fun. You don't have to be riding like a nutcase all the time. You know, biking is about enjoyment as much as anything. And yeah, I do get a lot of enjoyment riding fast, but it's just lovely being out on bikes. Anyone that doesn't ride bikes or hasn't ridden a bike really ought to try and find a way of experiencing it. It's hard to describe. So I'm on a B road now. Again, there's an argument to say the suspension's maybe a little bit hard. but nothing scary, nothing dangerous. You just feel the bumps. Another nature reserve, quite a few around here. Incidentally, be aware, whereas I was moaning that Sycamore Harley, the excess, if you had an accident, was £1,000, at the Pure Triumph dealership it's £2,000, so it's definitely worthwhile not having an accident, which of course none of us want on a motorcycle anyway. I'll go up here, I think I'll go to the top of the hill and then I'll try and find somewhere to turn around and go back to the dealer. Wow, I'm sure that's a house with a view. Very nice. Oh. Strange. I don't know what that means. Shall I go that way and see what happens? What's the worst that can happen? I can get lost. Yep, to be fair, this is a nice little bike. Nice little bike. I could quite imagine riding it. Make it my own. The tank there is absolutely ripe for some nice airbrushing. I don't know if that's a done thing on a Triumph. Who cares? So to wrap up, it's a nice little bike. Could I live with one? Yeah. Will I have one? Yeah, don't know yet. I've got quite a few more bikes to test. Because, like I've said in previous videos, I do like the Explorer, and it would be a bit of a wrench to get rid of it. But I've got my mind on. Well, I'm not set in any way to sell it. I'm just exploring my options, and I think that's healthy. Okay, so I've only had it 4 months, but that's kind of a biker thing. I know when I was much younger, I was chopping bikes very regularly. Obviously it's not the most advisable thing from a financial point of view. Every time you sell, potentially you lose. But I don't know, it is a biker thing. It's one of those, with bikes we'd all like, or a lot of us, let's put it that way, would like a certain level of bikes in our garage. I have currently got 2 sports bikes. One of them's a classic 750, well, more classic, it's 20 years old, and I've got my right up to date GSXR. It's 2007, 1000cc, but I've done a lot of work to it. I've lightened it, I've put carbon fibre on it, I've had it tuned, it's got a power commander, and I've got my techs. Now, in a perfect world, the old 750 I am going to sell, that's a fact, but in a perfect world I'd keep the 1000, I'd keep the techs, and then I'd have something like this or a Harley just for cruising, and that would be pretty much perfect, because the techs will tour, so I wouldn't need to worry about a boring looking touring bike. And then you'd have one of these that, you know, you just went out on a Sunday or just for a bit of a cruise with your mates, no risk of losing your license. So yeah, hope you got something out of this video, and maybe you'll use it as a idea to go and test your own old school style bikes.